guys, it's Gamer Ahmer here, and we are back with the 2024 Game Room Tour. And as you can tell, so much has changed, so I can't wait to show you my game room. Let's go ahead and check this out. So right away, you'll notice that this area is completely different. I scored this beautiful vintage KB Toys Nintendo 64, which was converted into a GameCube cabinet. This thing is such a beauty, and it houses my complete North American Nintendo 64 set, and as I'm going for the full GameCube set, that's where all of these games will be. So this thing is so awesome. I remember going into KB Toys, finding all of these video game items and different toys that I wanted, you know, back in the day, and this thing just brings so many memories. So in here I have some of my favorites, like my childhood blockbuster copy of Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, the press kit of Conker's Bad Fur Day, my Sprocket prototype. There's only a few of those that exist, where they got to develop the game with, some of these different releases all around the world of these Nintendo 64 games, and just so many other odds and ends of promotional items. And then beautiful Mario, he is over here protecting this Nintendo 64 cabinet. This is by far one of my favorite finds as well, and it goes along so nicely with all of this GameCube display. You have the GameCube Kiosk. This thing is amazing. It was saved from a dental office. So just finding all of these little promotional items from back in the day are really what make this corner stand out. So this corner right here still has all of my PlayStation games. So I have a variety of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, with this beautiful PlayStation 2 neon sign from Sony from back in the day. And I have all of these collector's editions all up here. So there's just so many different ones for like the PlayStation 1, even PS3, a couple Xbox 360. So some of these are fantastic games, like there's Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, just classics like James Bond titles, just so many of my favorites on this particular console. And I absolutely love this display right here. This is Sonic the Hedgehog, a Happy Meal display for these really cool little toys that they had back in the day. So some of these store displays or even fast food displays are just so awesome, and I love collecting those. Then we move on over to my kiosk collection. So there are quite a bit down here, and I've changed out the layout, but we have this Nintendo Wii U, which is fantastic. Just a fun time playing like Mario Kart on here, even this really cool little arcade that they had for the Switch title for Toki. Just little odds and ends with my Wii U collection in this cabinet. This actually opens up, so I have tons of games in here, but I would have to say that my favorite area that I have definitely changed up quite a bit, my Nintendo Switch kiosk, and I absolutely love what I did with this area. So at the bottom here, we have this beautiful Switch display that you would see at Targets, your Walmarts, anywhere that they sell pretty much all of these Nintendo Switch games. And I was able to convert this into a display of all of my collector's editions and just special editions for the Nintendo Switch. Some of these are my fan favorites because they are like those retro style video games. You have Rack and Ruin, Ghoul Patrol, you have Zombies Ate My Neighbors, Shantae, Streets of Rage 4, Just so many fun games over here that I absolutely love playing, and I really wanted to showcase this because the Nintendo Switch is such an amazing console where you could just play pretty much anything, retro, newer, and just get a mix in between. There's so many different games coming out for it, and there's so many places that do physical media for the Nintendo Switch so that these games just won't all turn into digital. I absolutely love the companies that are putting that into these particular games for the system, and this is one of my all-time favorites. You have that Nintendo neon over top, all of the lights going in the game room, and all of the amiibo figures that are just all throughout the entire game room. And then I had to put this on display. So this is a double-sided Nintendo sign, but it has the neon on one side of it, but it's from the Nintendo Entertainment System era. So I had to put up Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I have that beautiful cardboard display, still sealed in the original packaging from the 80s. I have this image of the game. It's signed by Mike Tyson himself with a copy of the game. Just all of these Super Nintendo, N64, and even Nintendo Entertainment System games. Absolutely love all of these games in here. You know, you have to have Street Fighter, you have to have Terminator, Perfect Dark, Doom 64, The Lion King, just classics, and I love all of these different handheld variants for the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Pocket, and the original Game Boy. Some of these are from Australia, some are from Japan. You have exclusives from all over the different parts of the world, and it's just crazy to see all of these different ones together just at one time. And then this corner, I love it. So this is the PlayStation 4 kiosk that I got from a closing GameStop. And I had to put a PlayStation 2 console in there because it just makes sense in this retro area to play all of these classic Mortal Kombat games, all of these other fantastic games on the PlayStation 2, all of these fighting games that I love, the racing games from back in the day, and just a mix. Then over here, we have this wall of Nintendo Wii games. This system is a great system, and I know it had tons of filler and all of these, you know, terrible games for the system, but you have all of these Mario games. Mario Galaxy was one of the best games on the Nintendo Wii. Having the light gun games like House of the Dead, there's so many different ones and they work on your modern TVs. It's just an easy system to set up, so many fun games to play, and I just love collecting for it because you could still find games pretty cheap at the thrift store. So that is one of my favorite systems to just go back. Easy to set up and easy to play. And then over here we have some of these box variants for the Super Nintendo as I'm going for that full North American set. So right here we have Donkey Kong Country, you have Diddy Kong and Donkey Kong on the box, Killer Instinct, another defining game on the Super Nintendo. Such a fun arcade game, and I love how they did these different box arts, these different variants. They just look fantastic on display. And then everything in this case, we have more handhelds down here, some amiibo on display. They had to, you know, guard the case here. You have all of these boxed Game Boy Colors, the boxed original Game Boy, just so many different variants from Japan, the Target exclusive, just so many fun ones like the Spice Orange color. But all of these games, we have a little bit of a mix of Super Nintendo, N64, and even Nintendo Entertainment System, Contra being one of my all-time favorites. So this right here is going to be where I showcase tons of collector's editions, different statues, different toys, and just so much more over here. So I have such a variety of all of these Dark Souls statues, Doom over there, just so many different ones for various consoles. Some of the Nintendo statues like Legend of Zelda, there's some Star Fox over there, a couple art prints, just all of these GamePro magazine figures, more big collector's edition for the PlayStation 4, just a variety of like Crash Bandicoot, Kingdom Hearts, Spyro the Dragon, and I absolutely love this piece here, so I had to get the Golden Mario this year when I went to a video game convention out in Arizona. Just so many cool and crazy pieces that you just don't see anymore. That was displayed back in the day in all of these Famicom shops over in Japan. So that little guy has made it pretty much all around the world at this point. Then over here, Resident Evil, adding more collector's edition statues. Just absolutely love this franchise. The controllers, the chainsaw controllers for the Nintendo GameCube, for the PlayStation 2, having the games for the Sega Saturn, just so many, a different variety. And then, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog exploded this year. We have all of these different little statues, toys, controllers, and the list goes on, but all of these like crazy prototypes. So these are unpainted, like little pieces that came for these little bendable figures. So all of these, a little bit of a variety kind of mixed in. These are going to be one of a kind. There are, you know, a few others of these like prototypes that they used, but these are all the unpainted versions. So those are just crazy pieces to add. More Sega CD, Sega Saturn games in the mix. Different, you know, Tiger Electronic handheld little system here. Just so many like weird things. Of course, Tomb Raider, you have to have Lara Croft in the game room, and you have to have all of these Street Fighter figures. You have the characters, different statues, and even all of those controllers. Over here, you have to represent for the Xbox, for the PlayStation. You have Gears of War, you have Uncharted, you have God of War, just taking over the shelves. Assassin's Creed, just so much with Fallout, all of these amazing art prints, lithographs, and everything in between. BioShock 2, just this beautiful collector's edition statue where these wings just like span out. All of these different exclusives from Toys R Us, Comic-Con variants, just so many different figures, different box sets for these light gun games. And that's not all, because I have boxes upon boxes. So I have them, you know, different varieties for the Sega CD, for the Sega Genesis, just so many different variants all throughout the entire game room. And then even more collector's edition statues with these awesome Freak Series controllers at the bottom. They only made them for the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. That is all of the different variants that they had. They are individually painted, and they are like these horror-themed controllers. Just fantastic additions in the game room. So this is a corner that has been growing. This is my Xbox 360 corner. I've been adding more and more games into the collection. There's so many favorites of mine, just so many racing games like Split Second, Blur, just so many fun shooting games. It's just a crazy system where I absolutely love all of these different exclusives for the system. This beautiful kiosk that I finally got, you know, put together even more. I have all of these different collector's editions, these different promo posters, different, you know, like little signs up, neon signs. You know, I just have so many for this system, and I just love the racing wheel. It's ready to go to play on this kiosk at any time. Then over here I have some of these newer collector's edition statues, like Streets of Rage 4, all of these for the new Street Fighter, just really cool pieces. Rob the Robot, you have all of these little Nintendo oddities on this shelf with this cool little light. And then down here you have Tetris going in the background, just these mini consoles that you can play, the Atari Jaguar, and then another version of Rob the Robot. So this right here is always one of my favorites to talk about. The Nintendo 64 was my first home console. Just something that when I started collecting, I just dove right in and I went head first. I decided to collect the entire worldwide set of consoles. So all of the fantastic colors with my childhood jungle green Nintendo 64. Getting this for Christmas one year with Donkey Kong 64. Such a fantastic piece in my collection that I'll never give up. Finding these Japanese variants as well. The ANA, you can only win that on the Japanese airline. Pikachu looks awesome, and in Japan they got 2 more color variants. The Korean release with different color variant controllers. The gold one, you have the N64 DD, you have a different Pokemon one from over in Australia, and then this one right here, the Chrome Fox Data. So there are not many of these that exist at all. This was a contest, and back in the day you could purchase some of the other controller variants, but they didn't hold up very well, so they just kind of scrapped it. And then all of these GameCube systems at the bottom with the Spice Orange for Japan. That is a beautiful console, one of my favorite colors on a particular console. And then the NR Reader, the development GameCube system. Just crazy to find all of these, you know, employee units where they used to make video games on that particular console. Just highlighting with this Nintendo 64 sign, having a couple different variants of N64 signs in the collection, all of these different controllers, these hydro-dipped controllers up here, the Donkey Kong 64 controller, just a beautiful variety of boxed systems as well. Just really one of my favorites. And then over here, adding these little guys. So just adding some of these inexpensive items. These hold controllers, so you can get them for Crash Bandicoot, there's Spyro the Dragon. You get all of these PlayStation lights. They have Xbox ones. You know, you get them for Halo, Borderlands. Just awesome little pieces to decorate the game room. All of my Xbox 360, Xbox One consoles, different ones like Modern Warfare 3. You get different, you know, Call of Duty, Halo, Gears of War systems. Some of my all-time favorites. And then this Mountain Dew, I love this green. It's a beautiful color. You have the Halo edition, just this blue crystal, all of these different systems at the bottom like Neo Geo and Panasonic 3DO. Then over here, this sign is something that I will always love in the game room. I got it super cheap. This is a World of Nintendo fiber optic, all of these different lights on here, a whole color wheel, which changes up the patterns. It's just so beautiful. And then even having this Nintendo Entertainment System Deluxe set, the first console that I ever played at my cousin's house. Just a beautiful piece of history. Nintendo like revolutionized video games and just made people fall in love with the system. Then adding all of these SEGA consoles, Dreamcast being one of my favorites, all of the light gun games on the Sega Saturn, just so many cool consoles. Even this right here, Wu-Tang for the PlayStation 1. This is a really cool official controller, super uncomfortable, but a fun time in the collecting world. And then PlayStation 2, different Japanese versions, Nintendo Wii, PlayStation 3, even this PS4, we have Uncharted, Nathan Drake edition. Just more lights, turbo graphics. You even have Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Neo Geo, and then the Vectrex. Over here I have the entire library of Vectrex games on this little cart. I have the full set, and then I have tons of homebrew games. They are still making games for this 40-year-old console. This thing is over 40 years, and they just keep pumping out games that are fantastic. There's so much love and passion in this system. It's just so amazing to see that in this retro community. So as you can tell, this had to move out of the way when that KB Toys cabinet came in. So this actually gives me a better idea because I'm going for the full Super Nintendo set. So now I can dedicate this entire shelf to nothing but Super Nintendo. And then the rest of the games are on the additional shelf that I have. But that beautiful Mortal Kombat, that silk banner at the top, it says prepare yourself for Mortal Kombat. Then all of these awesome video games. We have Earthbound, my holy grail of my Super Nintendo collection, having the complete in box with that awesome player's guide. Then having Hagane, Metal Warriors. I had collected so many over the past year, finding amazing deals, even getting like these weird little EB electronic boutiques. This like cool little card with Donkey Kong Country on here. And then having some with the Blockbuster labels and stickers on here. having this Maximum Carnage box set. This is, of course, for the Sega Genesis, but QVC only made so many of these for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. And then finding this big box at the Southeast Game Exchange, having Super Bomberman with the Party Pack, this large, oversized Super Nintendo box, this awesome game where you can play with 4 players, and just having a blast with Bomberman. And then more of my pride and joys, we have Pocky and Rocky, and then this one is Super R-Type with the label, factory error. The label is upside down. So just finding these weird little oddities in the Super Nintendo set as I collect them. And then this one is always a favorite because it's Earth Defense Force, but this is property of Microprose Cartridge Division. This was verified by an employee there where they had their own set of games that they could go ahead and play on their lunch breaks and just check out. And I have one of those authentic copies. And then you're seeing double, I have another Sega cabinet. So this one I decided to hang up all of these Sega Genesis games in here with these Sega pods at the bottom, something that a lot of people don't even know exist. So just all of these awesome games, Streets of Rage 2, Batman, you have Terminator, you have Wolverine, Spider-Man, X-Men, WWF, just all of these awesome and fun fighting games, Eternal Champions, Mortal Kombat, Strider, Toki, Jurassic Park, Beavis and Butthead, Boogerman, just so many of those classics. There's throwbacks to my childhood. And then, of course, the Nintendo Entertainment System. This fantastic system, just having all of these Nintendo oddities. So I know I have to alphabetize still on this one, but we have so many different cartridges, just odds and ends like this thermos, this really cool lunchbox, having the McDonald's toys from back in the day, World of Nintendo signs, really cool Mario Bank, Mario little doll that they had, different figures, comics, store displays, and of course the list goes on. But then having all of these different games, some signed by the creators, some of these fantastic ones, and I always thought that this was ironic because at the store it says, "Be kind, please rewind." And obviously you can't do that on a Nintendo Entertainment System game. But having the Jetsons, DuckTales 2, Bucky O'Hare, having all of these box games and these black box games here. These are really awesome to collect for. Definitely getting harder and harder to find. Just having a variety of this stuff. And then some of these, classic figures in the collection. For Super Mario Brothers, you have this Goomba figure and then you have the Koopa figure. But I have all of these complete minus Mario and Luigi because those two are loose. So I'll have to look for those complete, in the package. But this right here would have to be my little retro corner as well that I took over part of the laundry room for, and I hung up some banners and some other things. So this Doom banner, Nothing Can Save You, Doomsday, September 1st, 1995 for the Super NES. So this over here is still my retro corner with all of these older computers. You have the Commodore SX64. That is a fun one to play. It's like this portable but not really portable computer, but it is just super heavy and, crazy to play. Then we have all of these different Magnavox Odyssey 2 signs. This is an original store display from back in the day. I found it in this really cool antique store downtown. All of these different computers, playing these Radio Shack computers. It's just so wild having Donkey Kong and all of these Rampage figures over here with these little, handheld systems and tabletop versions. This Atari 2600 box with Pac Man sticker on there. Another Magnavox Odyssey 2 sign. This Nintendo seat along with the Nintendo Entertainment hot seat, which when you play it, you get to tilt, and that is how you play the game. Then over here we have this full shelf full of these Intellivision games, Atari games, stacked upon stacked. You have these Mystique, these adult video games for Atari. You have Masters of the Universe, just so many crazy, Panasonic 3DO games are over here, just a whole bunch of those. The kids controller for Atari, Smurfs, more Vectrex games. I even completed my GameCom system, so I have all of these different handheld games. There's just so many Neo Geo Pocket Color, Odyssey 2, a complete set of those as well. More box systems, more box controllers. This beautiful Sonic the Hedgehog coming soon sign. It does light up. It has this pink light. They would go ahead and write the different games on there. This is one of my favorites, my first cabinet in the collection. This is a SEGA cabinet from Walmart. SEGA new releases. They would put their 12 video games in here. You could read the backs of them and then let the employee know that you want them. And then this cabinet opens up and you would have the back stock of the games. But I actually use this for overflow. So I have tons of games in here, different computer ones, different Atari Jaguar, boxed games as well. Just some that did not fit on the shelf here. All of my handheld games in here. So this is one of my favorite cabinets, as it says SEGA all over it. And it's just a great piece of history that I scored super cheap. And then this area has changed up quite a bit. So as I have my Super Nintendo games, closing in on that complete set of games, I added so many more Super Famicom games as well. So that is actually the end of the alphabet and the Super Famicom games. You have this Sega Master System, Sega Genesis games, along with more that are displayed in the cabinets. There are some 32X games as well. So I love this little corner because now I get to highlight Musha, and then there are these little cartridges. Like, this is for promotional purposes only of Toy Story, property of Disney Interactive. Just some really cool pieces, some fun games as well. They just keep making more and more games, and I absolutely love that. So you can have Xeno Crisis on the Sega Genesis as well. Sonic Mania, these like cool little cases for the Switch game that came out. Just great pieces from my childhood. And just playing some of these games back in the day. You have the Turtle games, you have Batman, you have all of these superheroes, Sonic the Hedgehog, and of course the list goes on. So over here, we know that I have the Sega cabinet. I was able to score this one and another one, but this one came from the Southeast Game Exchange. It has this beautiful Sega light on top, and this right here is a vintage Sonic the Hedgehog bank. So you can put your coins in there, and this is so cool because this is from 1993. Just a neat little vintage piece from back in the day, having all of these in this cabinet. This Virtua Cop Tiger Electronic handheld game, all of these different Sonic the Hedgehog games like pinball, you have this little Sonic Mountain Quest, just all of these highlighted games from my childhood, Sonic the Hedgehog, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, Echo the Dolphin, The Incredible Hulk, Lion King, and then a full Sega Pico set for North America. And then adding this piece as well, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, only in theaters, McDonald's store display. So that is a theme because McDonald's sure keeps putting out all of these different displays, and I have to keep adding them. Having this beautiful N64 light, this Xbox Kiosk, this original display over here for Tekken 5. This is a beautiful three-sided standee that I'm super excited to add into the collection. Just looks fantastic on display. And then coming into my arcade, my little slice of heaven, where I have these different arcade machines. Like Carnival is one of my favorites, a full-sized light gun arcade that came out on Halloween in 1998. A fantastic light gun shooter. Then we have all of these different banners like Mortal Kombat. I added quite a few of these in the collection. Super Mario Galaxy for the Nintendo Wii. This awesome store display where you would put copies of the game. They would have this to go ahead and promote and try and get you to buy this amazing, probably one of the best Nintendo Wii games. The console itself, just so awesome that I went out there to pick this up, and I left with the KB Toys cabinet as well. Just absolutely something that I always wanted because I love this system. Having even more kiosks on the ground. There's a couple Game Boy Advance SP ones, just different styles, Game Boy Color, just a fantastic childhood edition in the game room. Nintendo 64 signs, PlayStation signs, the Nintendo DS download station, having the Nintendo DS kiosk, the dual-sided kiosk, where you could stand and play some of your favorite games, having this Super Mario Bros. 3 standee. This thing is so beautiful. It really ties into the classic Super Mario Brothers and just one of my all-time favorite games. Having these banners in the background, Nintendo 64 kiosks, the same company, KidSpace, that made all of those awesome McDonald's kiosks back in the day. This awesome tabletop version with this additional sign for the Nintendo 64. Just having all of this cool promotional stuff over here. So many different boxes. PlayStation 2 Lite at the bottom. And then having another Mortal Kombat banner for Mortal Kombat 3. Couple of these arcade machines, these tabletop styles. The Pepsi PlayStation 1 kiosk. More little standees, arcade one-ups. And then this is also another favorite of mine. So we have this McDonald's Sonic the Hedgehog 3 Happy Meal store display. 10,000 winners could win a copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on the Sega Genesis. Just all of these awesome toys that I remember from my childhood, playing with all of these, you know, launching Sonic, just having Tails go up, just really cool additions. And then over here, we have this original Xbox kiosk, probably one of my loudest kiosks in this arcade. Really gets that feel that you're in one of those awesome arcades back in the day, or you're in a store playing the Xbox, playing Halo, playing all of these new release games back then, and then even hanging up this Wolfenstein blimp, a huge, awesome store display, the Mountain Dew Halo store display as well. All of this stuff over here, probably my favorite section, having all of these Sega Dreamcast kiosks, both of these, having the Sega Saturn banner with Virtual Cop 2 on there, Virtual Fighter 2, having these really cool Dreamcast standees that you just don't see every day. These like weird video games that they had on the console, so many fun ones, so many arcade styles, having Crazy Taxi, this RC car, and then even having a bunch of these from a lot of the conventions that I've been to, where I've been, you know, special guests and stuff at. Just really cool getting all of these, kind of tracking which conventions I'm going to and exploring. And I just can't wait to add more into the collection. But this is by far one of my favorite rooms to be in. I love playing these games. I love having people over, just going to town, playing Marvel vs. Capcom, playing Crazy Taxi, playing the light gun games, playing House of the Dead on all of these awesome consoles. Just so much fun, and bringing back all of those memories of playing these games, testing them out in the stores, and just having so much fun. So I transformed the bathroom into a Pac Man themed bathroom. There's the arcade one-up Pac Man theme. We have all of these different signs, all of these different lights, and the best part, I decided to do the shower curtains, the floor mats, everything is just decked out in Pac Man. So this is the ultimate bathroom that goes along perfect with the game room. So I had to go ahead and do something a little bit different and just take over the house, because last time this room was used for storage, so I had to correct that. And then on to this area. So I actually ran out of room in my game room, so I had to expand and put all of my newer PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X games. So I had to put all of those up here along with some of these collector's editions. Like I have this signed one by all of the developers for the Elder Scrolls, and then I have some of these sealed statues, some opened as well. I just have a great mix of PC games, Just so many of these limited run and different strictly limited games on here. Some of these are pretty fun games. Had to get Crash Team Racing, Spyro, Reignited Trilogy, then all of these little promo items from the Elder Scrolls, like this really cool mug. There's some cups, pens, etc. And then even Starfield. That was for one of the screenings that you could have went to see all of the information about it. Then just some more like Corpse Killer, limited run games to a special version of it. Just so many different games, collector's editions. And then these, I just love talking about these. These are one of a kind. These are the only ones that exist for Rex Nebular and the Cosmic Genderbender. So these are original art drawings. So these are like little paintings from one of the people who worked on this game. And it's just really cool seeing all of this special stuff that you just don't see every day. So, you know, having like the only ones that exist of that is really amazing. So this is probably one of my favorite areas because now that I'm going through and trying to play some more of these games, it's just been a lot of fun. Then on to my toy room. So this is another expansion of the gaming area where I have all of those vintage toys. So not only do I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I have a lot from the 80s and 90s, I also collect the Mutant Mayhem toy line. So I just absolutely love the new movie, everything related to Turtles, and I love discovering more and more of these items. Now, I also love different video game franchises like Mortal Kombat. That is one of my all-time favorites. I love the fighting games. I have some of the store display standees, different things like that for Mortal Kombat and various, you know, systems as well. So I also collect a little bit of Pokemon. So I have all of the different cards. I have tons from my childhood. And then all of these different, you know, the VCR that has the Pikachu remote with it. Tons of those VHS tapes. Just remembering those from back in the day. And then even collecting all of these Simpson toys. It definitely has grown in the past year. Finding more and more of these special items. Having the Subway store display that would have been used to hang up. Having some of the comics and different little odds and ends. Then Nickelodeon definitely took over. Tons of Rugrats. There's Tiger Electronic handhelds. All of these Nickelodeon, like the phone. We have some walkie-talkies, even this alarm clock, just some of these like classics. And then I absolutely love the Rugrats movie VHS tape that I have, this awesome store display. This would have been the topper that goes on one of those units back in the day. Having more McDonald's store displays, Small Soldiers, definitely kicking it off. I had to add tons more in the toy line, adding some different odds and ends for that as well. Having Ghostbusters, that original store display from Hardee's back in the day, where you could collect some of those little like things that they had, like the cups, Cartoon Network, having a mix of it all. And then Power Rangers. Power Rangers was one of my favorites growing up. Just reliving those memories of coming home from school, wanting to watch the different shows, wanting to watch the movies on the weekends, and just getting to dress up like Power Rangers and having a really good time. So just bringing this room all together. So this area, I wanted to have something that's a little bit nostalgic, especially for me and all of those 80s and 90s fans. So just having a mix come together, having these Batman toys, these different collectibles, and just so much in this room. This is by far one of my favorites and where I get to actually play video games and have fun doing so. And that concludes my 2024 Game Room Tour. I'm just so excited to share all of these different changes with you guys, as I have found so much over this past year. Transforming the bathroom into a Pac Man lair, taking over the laundry room, and adding more shelving so that I can continue my full sets of video games. And when you have over 300 different consoles, over 8,000 physical video games, you have to get creative. So I'm just so glad that you guys have been on this journey with me, and let me know in the comments below if you guys would like to see anything more specific, and I'll get some footage together for you guys. So of course, thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more.